Hello and welcome to the Collapse Experiment. Today I went to the first Comic Con that I have been to. Sorry, let me correct that. Pop Culture Con. Whatever the bleep that's supposed to be. Ah, it was here in Cadillac, where I live, which is a relatively small city. Can you call it a city? It's small, northern Michigan. You know, where people start making jokes about the population density and the lack of gene pool. But they had Pop Culture Con. There were some things that I was impressed with, and there were other things that downright pissed me off. So, let's look at some of the goodies first. Well, there were a lot of vendors. There were vendors. It was mostly just vendors, right? I mean, this was basically like a county fair for nerds, hobbyists, TCG players, and, you know, they need their place to go to as well. But they had some competitions going on, some Magic the Gathering competition happening, and the tables in the back. You had the Ghostbusters cosplayers with their Echo One and a giant Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. And then on the other side, you had some Ren Fair people who were dressing up in their own homemade armor garb, who were battling one another. Couldn't quite figure out what the heck that was all about. Like, could other people actually like wear it, and were there rules? Could people actually like fight one another? Like, it was a demonstration? I don't know. They didn't really have anything to say what it was. All you'd hear is somebody going, "Argh!" and then whack, whack, boom. They didn't really have good form either. That kind of irritated me. As somebody who actually studied Kenjutsu back in the day, I was like, footwork is off, bad form. What's with the shield? Either you're trying to kill a dude or you're not. But anyways, there was one vendor there, and this is what pissed me off. There's one vendor there who had a lot of Pokemon stuff. Majority of other vendors were comic books. I was happy to see that, and I did buy a couple of comic books. There were a couple of vendors who are also selling Pokemon, but they didn't have like a big selection. There was one that I bought from because I was like, wow, he's actually selling it for under the suggested retail price. I don't know if he was just moving out of it or if it was like a special he was doing so that people who can't find Pokemon right now could actually enjoy the hobby. But no, there was another one there, and I'm standing there, I'm flipping through the books, seeing the individually priced cards, seeing if there's anything that I want to go home with. And then I look over and they're selling the packs. They've got the display. They've got the packs over there. And I'm seeing $6, $7 because they've got packs of older runs of Pokemon. And then I see the prismatic evolutions. Initially, when I looked at the sign, because of sloppy handwriting, I thought it said $5 a pack. Because the mark in front of the 5 did not look like a number 1. It looked like somebody was trying to scribble like a money sign or something, like $1, right? Or $5. You know, the S with a line through it. So I'm thinking like, wow, I might actually get like a couple packs of that and open them with the kid. because we haven't seen these before. So I get done flipping through the books. I have an idea of some cards that I want to get. And then I ask about the packs of cards. And I'm like, hey, so are those? And then I glance over again and I'm like, is that supposed to be a 1 or is it something else? So I ask, is that $5 or are they $15 a pack? Oh yeah, those are 15. Why? Well, those are problematic evolutions. It's a problem because nobody can find them. Okay, so you run a shop, which means you have access to get these things, which nobody else can get. And you're getting them directly from the distributor, which means you are getting them at the dealership price. And according to Pokemon, you're supposed to sell them for the suggested retail price of $5 a pack. But no, you go to this comic convention, Pop Culture Con. You go to this con and you're now charging the public $15 a pack. You're the problem. So after he says that they're $15 a pack, I turn around and walk away. And I'm like, I'm not spending any money at this booth. I don't give a shit what cards I saw, what reasonable prices they had. Because when you're doing that, no, I have a huge issue with you. It's like all the gas stations around the country that were racking up the price per gallon to $10, $11, all because 9/11 happened. I remember that. I remember the day of. 2 planes hit the World Trade Center. All of a sudden, gas is like $10.59 a gallon for no reason. And then it was like a few days later, they announced, we're investigating every gas station that did that because there's no reason to. It did kind of look like the end of the world, right? But no, this is not the end of the world for Pokemon. This is you being a greedy son of a bitch. No, not spending $15 a pack. One of the things I did enjoy about the Comic-Con was seeing a small publisher that I was familiar with, Caliber Press, Caliber Comics. You may know them best for the original publishers of the Crow miniseries by James O'Barr that turned into the movie with Brandon Lee. They were there. Well, what remains? I couldn't quite get the entire story from the guy that was working behind the table, but I was like, is this the leftovers of the company? Are they still publishing? Do they still exist? Because he was talking about how the original owner who created the company had died and the wife moved to California, and then before she left to California, he handed over all the surplus merchandise to him to continue on with the business. I don't know. I don't know if they're publishing anymore or not. But I was able to get my hand on a couple of comics that I remembered from back in the day I was interested in, but could never find. So that was really cool. I was pretty happy with that. Those were the comics that I actually bought. So I now am in possession of Baker Street, and there was another one that was a Sherlock Holmes comic. Baker Street is too, but this one was like a darker version of Sherlock. I'll find out later what exactly it is, but that's one thing I liked about Caliber, was that they were publishing different stuff outside of the superhero genre. And, a little something for everybody. So there were cosplayers, quite a bit of cosplay. And, the majority of vendors were just misses, right? You could just walk on by and give a glance. There was a couple of writers there. There was one guy that was an artist who had actually drawn for Marvel at some point in time. Wasn't familiar with him or any of his work, and I saw his artwork and I was like, it's decent. You know, I could see why he would have been hired. But from the superheroes that I was seeing, not anything I would have read or seen. And then, man, what else? What else was there? There was one really cool shop. And this is gonna sound weird, I admit that. But it was a woman who makes plushies, stuffed animals, whatever it is that they're known by now. But she had some Pokemon ones. She had How to Train Your dragons that she had sewn by hand, I'm guessing. And it was like really good quality. There was a Mimikyu that I was like, that actually looks pretty awesome. Like there was a lot of work that was put into this. An Umbreon. But then when I looked at the Mimikyu and saw the price of $46, I was like, oh, that's right. You're paying for the actual labor that went into this and all the hard work. And that's why it looks so cool, right? This wasn't some sweatshop in China that put this thing together. So yeah, I picked up one of her cards because I was like, this is actually some pretty good stuff, but well out of my price range. So anyways, that was my kid's first experience at a Comic-Con. I figured the youngest one would have been excited to see all the costumes and all the girls dressed up, and she's really into all that flashy stuff. And you know, the older one, she was happy to be hanging out with some of her friends who had also gone. And she was excited to see some of the Pokemon stuff. But didn't get one photo of them there. Not a one. I was like, do you want to stand in front of the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man? No. Do you want to stand in front of the Echo One Ghostbusters mobile? No. But she wanted to spend the $8 to go stand in front of some green screen where they could switch her background and make a photo booth experience. There was no booth. It was just a green screen that you stand in front of, and some dude with a camera takes your digital photo. And yeah. Now, couldn't get any of the cool photos I would actually want, but no. Wanted to do that, and I was just like, hell no, you're not doing that. I'm spending $8 for you to take a photo when you won't even take a photo for free. This is stupid. That's kind of how the whole rest of the day went as well. So Comic-Con, was it a bust? At least it was free. That's the one thing that got me through the door. It was free to the public. No admission. So I was happy about that. Kind of how it should be. I mean, all the vendors, they pay for their booth anyways, right? Shouldn't that pay for the rental of the place? But anyways, that was Comic-Con. Some Pokemon ripoff artists, some scantily clad ladies running around dressed as superheroes, video game characters. I don't even know. I couldn't keep up. There's just too much shit out there to keep up with these days. You've got this clash now of, you've got comic books, anime, manga, video games, movie characters, and it's all just meshing together into one category. They don't even bother separating them anymore. They had the local charter of Trekkies there as well. Like, oh yay, are they forgotten now? Like, is that still a thing? And they had their Starfleet uniforms too. So that was interesting. Anyways, that's about it for me. Keep on typing.